Hello everyone. Hi. Hey, can you all hear me? We're starting in about 7 minutes, okay? Hello everyone. Hi. Hey, can you all starting in about 7 minutes, okay? Okay, 2 more minutes we start. If you know anyone that is not joining the space yet, please call them. Cause yeah, we're gonna start very soon. If you know anyone that is not joining the space yet, please call them. Cause yeah, Okay, so let's start the space. Yay, thank you very much, everyone, whoever you are, for coming to the space. Very, very, yeah. So, okay, so welcome to iGV Consultancy Space. My name is Gina, and I'm MCVP iGV of Isaac in Malaysia 1819. So, for today's space, we're gonna talk about IGV, obviously. So, yeah, if you are an elect, welcome to IGV. Or if you're thinking of, if you're thinking of applying for IGV, then oh, good job. It's gonna be fun. Okay, so cool. So, the expectations of people of IGV is that oh, IGV is very, very busy because you have to take care of your members, you have to take care of your you have to take care of your directors, you have to take care of the EPs, you have to take care of the partners, you have to take care of the IR partners and all this stuff. Like, yeah, everyone is like, I don't know, the expectations of IGV is that, oh yeah, it's a very busy, um functional. Mm. But the thing that I realized is that because I was also LCBP IGV when I was in LC, is that literally what you have to do is coordinating. Like, I don't know if you know this game. This game is called Overcooked. Yeah, if you are playing multiple player, the game is very easy because as long as you have a good coordination within the stakeholders, like for example, you have to take care of your customer, you have to take care of your synergy, you have to take care of your EPs, then everything is gonna be super, super, super fine and super smooth. Yeah, so yellow, for this space today, we're going to talk about the functional measurement of success, like what is it mean to be success in IGV, and then what are the KPIs to make sure that you are achieving the success. Yeah, the next one is so you have the MOS, you have the KPI, what are the job description and key focus that you have to do when you are an LCVP IGV. Yeah, and then another thing is that in order for you to achieve your goal, to achieve your KPIs, there are certain thing that that you can only do with your synergy, like yeah, I will explain a bit later. And then obviously product timeline, what is the timeline, what you have to do when, and stuff like that. And then the next thing is the main competence for you to be an LCVP IGV. Okay, cool. So, what is it that I'm doing as LCVP IGV? It's very simple. There are five things that you have to do. First one is product management. Product management, as in accept, approve, this kind of stuff, like managing the funnels and so on. And then the next thing is international relation management, because IR is your life. So you can never forget that IR is there and it should be your focus, because IR should be 70% of your total achievement coming from IR partners. Okay. Next one is synergy management, because as an IGV, as a product, you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it only IGV, but you need partners and you need also finance and also PM to make sure that your product is sustainable enough in terms of finance, partners, and also people. So that's why you need synergy management. The next one is obviously team management, because in IGV, it's not only VP that have to do everything, but you have a team to make sure that they can support you to deliver the experiences to the EPs and also to the society. Yeah, and then the next one is a national plenary. Why? Because your LCVP, you are the person who is representing your LC as a product head of IGV. Yeah. So let's go a bit deeper. Yeah. So the thing I mentioned before is that your role as LCVP is actually managing managers, because as LCVP you're gonna have directors, you're going to have like as project directors, and also OCP who manage their team and also their EPs. Yeah, so basically that's it. And then so for product management, the first one is to analyze and manage the funnels. Funnels is as in apply, accept, approve, realize until complete. That is called the funnels. So yeah, what you're doing for the funnels is that you need to take care of the conversion. Like, how is the conversion? How uh, can you make sure that the processes can be fast? And then the next one is process and quality management. Process as in like SOP implementation. Like, how can you make sure that every single processes that there are in IGV can be as smooth as possible? Yeah, and then to maintain, like, how can you make sure that the quality of every single stages or every single process is maintained? Yeah, the next thing is exchange standards fulfillment management. Of course, exchange standards is the most important element that you have to do in IGV, because no matter what, like, no matter how hard you are trying to do to get the EP, like, if they don't actually learn anything, or if you do not fulfill the standards, then it's gonna be a waste for the EPs and also for your time and for the members, of course. Yeah, the next thing is NPS and LPS. So NPS is Net Promoter Score, and LPS is Leadership Promoter Score. Yeah, so LPS is like when your EP finish their experience on expert, they will be asking like, would you recommend this? Would you recommend the experience to people? There will be like yes or no question. So that is the thing that you have to also to take note on, because when they say yes, meaning that this EP is actually satisfied with the experience that they have in your LC. So yeah, not only net promoter score but also the LPS management. Yeah, moving on to international relation management. First one is product funnel. It's basically the same. You have to maintain this with your IR partners. You have to have a clear goal. You have to have a clear process. You have to have every single thing to make sure that every single goal that you set is fulfilled. Yeah. The next thing is profile and opportunities alignment, because whatever it is that you're doing with IR, it's supposed to be aligned, because as I said before, is that IR is your life. IR is basically 70% of your total achievements should come from IR. Why? Because it's super, super easy. Because especially for IGV, it is impossible for you to get in touch directly with the EP. That's why you have to have a good, like a strong IR partners to make sure that the OGV side promoting your project with the right opportunities and the right expectations about the project. Yeah, the next thing is conversion rate management, because as I mentioned before, every single processes should be aligned with your IR partners, meaning that you also have to manage this with your IR partners. You have to track it weekly to make sure that conversion rate is being taken care of. Because, for example, if your apply to accept is not as high as the goal, or is not achieving the goal, then there must be something wrong with the processes. So that is the thing that you can follow up with the IR partners. Yeah. The next thing is process and quality management in terms of SOP and everything should also be aligned. So you have to manage this with your IR partners. And then the next thing is also important, because as action standards, it's not only IGV that needs to fulfill, but also the OGV side need to fulfill, right? So it's supposed to be sending entities and also host entities fulfilling the standards. Yeah, because even if you fulfill every single standards for IGV, for example, you need the four other standards that is supposed to be filled by the fulfilled by the sending entity. That is why when you are planning your standards, SOP and everything, you also need to think of how can we make sure that our IR partners are aligned, and they also follow SOP that you already have planned. Yeah, to make sure that the EPs are actually complete in the end of their experience. Yeah, and the next thing is NPS and LPS, because it is also like a two uh it's a both party responsibility to make sure that the EP's experience uh is fulfilled. Yeah, at least the EP feel very very satisfied with the experience, but you also need your IR partners to make sure that that happen. Yeah. And then the next thing is synergy management, as in tracking and driving IGV sustainability and growth in the perspective of people, finance, and partners. Because you are not alone. You will need, because in order for you to open a project, you will need a partners to actually sign a contract with you, and also when it comes to project delivery, you need them to be aligned or to be on board with you, like for example, um, job description, working hours, and all the stuff. So you need a synergy to make sure that your partners are actually aware of the exchange standards and actually on board with you when it comes to project delivery. Yeah. And then the next thing is about people. So imagine if you are on a VP and then you only have two people in your project, meaning that the people that you have in the beginning, they running away because you didn't take care of them enough. So um the people here, for the checklist I will let you know a bit later. So basically, yeah, this is the this is for the synergy management. And the next thing is about team management. So team management is in because, as I said before, you will have a team that will make sure that they are on board with you together to deliver the project until the end of the term, right? So the first one is, of course, team standards tracking and implementation. Sometimes we think that team standards implementation is an add-on job description, which actually is not, because for example, one-to-ones, weekly meeting, and all this stuff, this is something that you have to do as a team leader. Okay, that's why team standards tracking and implementation is actually very very important for you to uh, be taken care of when you are an LCVP. Yeah, the next thing is performance appraisal tracking. Why? Because every single people or every single team leaders and members need to have a clear job description. They have to have a clear KPI to make sure that they are actually performing or they're actually contributing something into the department itself. Yeah. And then the next thing is PDP implementation. So for PDP is that it is very important for you to understand what is the next step, or what are the things that your team members wanted to learn throughout the term, so that you as a team leader can make sure to take them accountable towards their goal, and also for you to help them, like in terms of, for example, resources or something. Yeah. And then the next thing is L&D implementation, because obviously L&D is something that will naturally do, because you will coach your members, you will give them some kind of education. But then for L&D implementation is that you will have to have like a clear plan on what are the things that you need to deliver to them and by when, because everything is as a strategy. Yeah. The next thing is national plenary. So first is to represent your LC in the national plenary, align LC to the national direction, and downscale them to members in your functional. And then the next thing is to fill the SONA report throughout the term. Yeah, so that would be for the national plenary. Okay. The next thing is, so yes, I know what my job description is. I know my key focuses. So what is it? Like, how do we measure our success as LCVP IGV? It's super super simple. So I put the initially for operation, the measurement of success is number of complete. But then without complete, without approve, we cannot obviously we cannot complete. Why? Because approve here is the starting point of how to say, of the success that you're going to have in the end. Because if you do not have approve, if you do not have EP, or if you have lots of break approval, complete is never going to happen. All right. So yes, why I put approve here is because this is the starting point of everything. So you really need approve eh, to be able to complete the EP itself. So yeah, so that is the measurement of success. But then there are also like key performance indicator for you to make sure that you have complete by the end of the day. So first is obviously number of open, because if you don't have opportunities, then you're not gonna have EPs applying to you. Okay, the next thing is number of approved, obviously, because yeah, this is like the, how to say, like a checkpoint for you, like to make sure that you have an EP to deliver the project itself. Yeah. The next thing is number of realization. It is when your EP have already come to Malaysia to actually be there to deliver the project to the society. Yeah. The next thing is number of complete, because you need this EP, or you have to know that you are completing the minimum standards to your EPs, and the EP are actually satisfied with the project, and they actually learn something from the project. Yeah, and then the next thing is conversion from apply to approve, and then conversion from apply to from approve to complete. Why is conversion? Why am I always talking about conversion? Because conversion is very very important, because from there you can you can really see and you can really measure like how effective you are doing your processes. Like for example, how good you are in doing your SOP. You can see it from the conversion that you have. For example, you have lots of applicants, but like for example, you have 100 applicants, but you only have 3 accepted and then 1 approved. So from this, if you see the conversion, if you take note of the conversion, you can see like, okay, so my problem is actually from apply to accept. Then you can analyze from that what is the problem that you have, um, that you can improve with your team. Yeah, and then the next thing is obviously process time, is to to see like how fast you are in dealing with this customer. Because the faster the better, of course. Like, because like for example, when you are ordering something from Lazada and then they did not send you an email within 24 hours, you're gonna be freaking out. Or like if they are actually receiving your order because you already have put your money there, and then you're basically feeling very insecure if you're gonna get the product that you want. So it's the same basically, because you're dealing with the EP, you're dealing with a person who actually pay for something to be able to come here to Malaysia. Yeah, so process time is super super important. Yeah, the next thing is NPS and NPS. Again, it's because for us to see like whether the EP is actually satisfied with the project or not, and if they want to recommend ISEC in Malaysia to their friends or family or not. Yeah, so it's super super important. Cool. So right after that, so how can you make sure that all of you can fulfill all of these things with all of the stakeholders you're going to have? So for example, for your synergy with PD is the first, you have project audit and DMF, right? That is the starting point of how you're going to plan your project. So from this, from DMF and from project audit, what supposed to happen is that you have the conversation on how can you see the project, for example, in a year ahead. Because for example, you have the partners and you have to have the discussion with your PD to make sure that the partners are actually aligned with the project that you are already planning. Okay, so the next thing is impact report, because it's very very important for PD to how to say, to have the documentation of the project, like what are the um how to say what are the good things, like what are the good cases, what are the bad cases of a project, the testimonials from the EPs, and then what is the result of the project that you can showcase to the partners, because partners will only buy your service if you are actually creating something or contributing something to the society. Yeah, so that makes sense. The next thing is project impact, as in, like, how can we make sure that we are actually contributing something to the partners, or how can we make sure that us as ISEC and also our partners contributing something to the society. Yeah, so this is something that, like, this kind of discussion has to be happen in your LC. Yeah. And then the next thing is obviously partnership deliverables, because during the project, most of the time we always neglect, or we always forget that actually partners are have a very important role to make sure that the project happen. Yeah, because most of the time, like, there are some cases that the partners are um, canceling the event or canceling the project in the middle of the realization itself. So it's very, very important to make sure, or to try to manage the partnership deliverables. Yeah. And then the next thing is for IGV and FL is that in the finance side, obviously it's budget and cash flow planning, because if you do not have a clear plan of the budget and cash flow, then you're basically gonna be fucked in the end of the, oh sorry, you're gonna be screwed in the end of the realization. Yes. And then the next thing is investment allocation. Like, for example, what is it for failed delivery? What is it for PD sponsorship allocation, and etc. Yes, to make sure that when it comes to failed delivery, like, for example, accommodation and everything are um, sufficient enough by the things that you have as a budget in the beginning. Yeah, and then the next thing is the same, it's project audit, to see whether the project is actually sustainable enough or not. Yeah. The next thing is legality. So first things first is EP agreements. So in FL, actually they already know, like, what are the things that needs to be in the agreement, and FL needs to know what is it in there, because everything is always connected to money. For example, if your EP is violating the agreement, then they have to leave, and then you have to pay for the accommodation still. So this is something that you have to take care of. And also, like, again, for the finance part, you have to take care of the budget and cash flow planning, to make sure that this won't happen. Yeah, and then the next thing is opportunity taker agreements review, especially for NCR, to make sure that FL can actually screen through the legality part for that. And then the next thing is XPP compliance. Yeah, XP is exchange program policy. So this is basically, how to say, like a, like, like a policies to make sure that you are actually running the right um, product, and also in a right way possible as an ISEC. Yeah, and then the next thing is visa documents, because this is something connected to legality. So if your EP is actually having an issue with visa, then finance, they have the knowledge on how to um how to say, like, how to take care of it. Yeah, they have the SOP themselves. Yeah, in legality cases. And then the next thing is firefighting cases consultation, because like, for example, risk management and all this stuff, uh FL can give you um like a perspective from legality side, like on how to take care of a cases, for example. Yeah. And then the next thing is for IGV and PM is first LND implementation. Why? Because LND is the starting of, like, for example, educations, and all the stuff, to make sure that your members and your team leaders knowledge are being taken care of. So this is super important. And the next thing is PA. PA is to make sure that the accountability system is there. Like, for example, giving the right task and delegate the right thing to the right people, and then you actually track it. Yeah. And then the next thing is EP lead planning, because yeah, again, because we are actually a leadership organization, so we have to make sure that our EP, or we have at least a plan on how can we make sure that EP is actually learn something and they're actually developing something when they are here in the project. Yeah, because they have already flew here for very a lot of money, and then for around, they have to sacrifice their classes, they have to sacrifice um, their summer or their winter break to just come here, so to make sure that they actually learn something from it. Yeah. And then the next thing is team standards tracking and implementation. Obviously, again, team standard is very important for you to make sure that you are actually managing your team um, in a good way possible. Like for example, you take care of their one-to-ones, you take care of the weekly meeting, you have a very like a routine weekly meeting with your team members. Yeah. And then the next thing is team recruitment and selection, which of course this is super important for them to know like what kind of people you need in your department, and what kind of profile of people that is gonna be useful that for you. Yeah. The next thing is R&R for members, is to give rewards and recognition on the for the members that is actually performing. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing is timeline management. So hashtag timeline is everything. Without timeline, if you don't know timeline, you're screwed. Confirm. Okay, so what is happening now in December is actually pre-attraction. Until January is actually pre-attraction. What is happening in pre-attraction is that you have your supply and demand analysis. You already know which country that you need to approach for summer peak. You already know from which LC they are, and you already know which profile that you need for each project. Yeah, and then the next thing is that uh, once you know your supply and demand, the next thing is that you have your promotional tools ready, you have your booklets ready, you open your project. Obviously, very important, deadline is 8th, so deadline is tomorrow, so make sure that you have open and everything else. Yeah. And then in January also, actually, we already have to start with attraction. Why? Because actually now some entities are already doing promotion for summer peak. So if you are late, then you have to bear with the consequence that you're not gonna have a lot of applicants already, because they're basically approved. So the timeline is actually shift again a bit earlier um, than last year. So if you think that, oh yeah, we can chill February starting, attraction in February is enough, blah blah blah, please don't do that. Okay. So it's very very important for you to know that timeline is always earlier. Okay, so the earlier you are, the better. Cool. So the next thing is consideration. So consideration, I put here January until May. Yeah, basically, like ideally it's January until April. Why? Because for consideration, the faster you have approval, the longer preparation, realization preparation you and your EP can have. So meaning that approve them earlier if you approve them earlier, there will be like a huge differences of the readiness of the EP to come to the country itself, because you already give them like the amount of information that they need. Yeah, because for example, if you approve them 2 weeks before the project, first flight ticket is not confirmed that they will get the flight, the date that they want. Second is that you may miss on the information because everything is a rush. Third is that the AP might not be like 100% ready to go for an exchange, because they don't know the country, they didn't do any like enough amount of researches and this kind of thing. So yeah. And then the next thing is for May and June is preparation. So this is actually the new customer flow that we have: attraction, consideration, and then preparation. Preparation is basically to prepare the EP before they come for the project itself. So yeah, it's from approve until realization is a preparation part where you give them information about visa, information about the country, information about the job description, information about the partners, the students, and everything. So this is in preparation phase, which you have to do it once they get approved, not 2 weeks before they come to Malaysia. Okay, so the next thing is experience. Experience is realization basically. So you're doing the project, blah blah blah, and then post experience is actually brand advocacy. Yeah, last time we call it brand advocacy, but now we call it post experience because like what are the things that we need to do after the project ended, like for example debrief with home entity, or you have space like the last space with the EP on how can you make sure that you wrap up their experience, like if even if they have like a bad experience, how to make sure that like how can you make sure that these EP are still learning something. Okay. Yeah, and then again in December it will be a pre-attraction again, and the cycle is like that. So basically this is for summer peak. Yep. Okay. So, am I the right profile for LCVP IGV? So this, please take note. If you're LCVP elect, what are the things that you will still lacking of, and what are the things of the competence that you already have as LCVP, or if you are candidate, or if you are thinking of applying for LCVP, these are the profile or these are the competency that you have to be an LCVP. Yeah. So the first one is cross cultural understanding. It's obviously as LCVP IGV, you have to understand that cross cultural understanding is super important. Why? Because, for example, as simple as communicating with the EP from a different background. Yeah. Like, for example, the way the things that you think is rude may not be rude in their country, or the things that they think is rude may not be rude here in Malaysia. So this is the thing that you need to understand with cross cultural understanding. Yeah, and then the next thing is supply and demand. Obviously you have to understand like what kind of profile of EP that uh, mostly come to your LC, and then you have to leverage on that. Like for example, you have a clean or plate project, and then the profile of EP is like this, and then they're coming from this country, and they're coming from which LC. Yeah, so because the supply is already there and the demand is already there, then you have to make sure that you understand what you can do to get the supply that you already have. Okay. The next thing is to shape what we do around what the world needs. So in this context is what Malaysia needs. For example, you have to understand like have an analysis about around your LC or around your city of the things that, for example, there is an issue about food waste. Then you can have, for example, a COP project with collaborate with the collaboration with this school, for example, or collaboration with the food bank. So this is the meaning of what we do around what the world needs. Yeah, and then the next thing is international relation. Obviously, as an LCVP, you have to understand that IR is a big part of your success. Yeah, so you have to have at least understand that IR is very important, and then you want to leverage the level of IR that you already have before. Yeah. So the next thing is risk and reputation management. Risk and reputation management is very important because as most of the time when it comes to value delivery or when it comes to realization, there always been um, like EP cases with visa and everything, meaning that you already have to have the plan on how to make sure that you're not gonna put your LC at risk, or you're gonna make sure that the reputation of ISEC won't be violated because of that. Yeah, so it's like more to communication and also the plan on how to firefight the cases. Yeah, the next thing is about product management. Definitely you have to like know, for example, what is the plan for your project, and then what is this project gonna be, um, for example, in the future and everything. So yeah, starting from open until completed, like how is it going to be. And then the next thing is customer experience. Yeah, customer experience, basically your EP is your customer, so how can you make sure that the experience of your EP is being taken care of, and you understand what is the need of the EP, and then what is the need of the partners, and what are the things that you can do to provide their needs. Yeah, and the next thing is customers learning and training. This is obviously because when an EP is coming to your project, they expect that they're going to learn something, and you are the one who's going to give them a training. And then also, yeah, to make sure that they're actually learn something, and then they actually do something for the project. Okay, and then the next thing is quality standards and processes. This is like SOP implementation. How can you make sure that the things that you're doing is up to the standards that is already set by the national. Yeah, the next thing is IT support, for example, expa, core, spreadsheet and everything, to make sure that you have enough data, and you can utilize this how to say, these platforms for you in the future, like for example to do some analysis and so on. Yeah, so if you, like for example, if you don't understand expa, then you really need to understand, you don't have a choice. Yeah, so that's for IT support. And the next thing, oh yeah, next thing is Q&A. So I will close this. So yeah, if you have any question, oh, I actually, there are a lot of questions already. Okay, so first question from Adam. If an EP leaves early 4 out of 6 weeks, can it still be considered as complete? No. Why? Because first of all, ISAC in Malaysia is not uh, a pilot project for 4 weeks project. So if your EP left basically not being here for 6 weeks, then it's not completed, and you're actually violating the XPP, which gonna be like a case from ICB. So let's make sure that your EP does not leave uh, before the project ends, or if they need to leave, yes, if they need to leave because of, like for example, a family issue or health issue that they need to really go home, then it will be considered as break approval. Yeah. So what is the, wow, that's a very very good question. What is the advantages and disadvantages to IGV when AI change the customer flow, in your opinion? So first is that later, uh, customer flow is that in the system itself, uh, you will have to only click 3 times for an EP to approve, meaning that the one who accept the EP is IGV, and then the one who approve EP, or like click the approve or click the accept, is wait, let me rephrase this. So the person who will click accept is IGV, and the one who click approve is only OGV. Why? Because yellow, obviously, sometimes we take a lot of time to actually click on the system when we already know that this EP is going to be accepted, or we already know that the EP is going to be approved. Yeah, so I think that is one advantage. And then another thing is that now we actually have like a preparation stage where the EP is going, like where the process is going to be, like how can we make sure that the EP is ready, that the EP have the knowledge to actually go to the country. Yeah, so like the preparation part is actually for me is super super great. Yeah, and then after that, the next advantage is that when an ep is because for now we do not have any sop for an ep who is for example break approved. Yeah, so for the next for the new customer flow, there will be like a cycle where when an ep is break approved, they will be going to back to the consideration stage, meaning that when an ep is actually break approved, the EP can actually apply for the next term project. And that is why ISEC in Malaysia is opening project for a year long. Yeah, so see the point there, because when an EP is, for example, break approved because of family, because university timeline changing, and so on, they can still apply for the next term project, which is super super great. But I think the next thing for the disadvantages is that I think the change in the change management part, whereby we won't be interviewing the EP anymore. So there will be like a form, kind of a form that you can submit on the system, where the EP can directly fill in the form and then accept accept or not, or rejected uh, on the system. So yeah, I think this is something that we still need to figure out on a way of how can we make sure that we implement this in the best way possible. Yeah, and then the next thing is, can you tell us more about the NPS score, how it affects IGV? Okay, so NPS score, the how it affects is that when you are basically for IR partnership, because like when an OGV is looking for an entity to work with, the first thing that they will see is first conversion rate from realized to complete, and the second one is NPS. Why? Because when your EP is completed, meaning that your project is good enough, that you are delivering the minimum standards for the EP. And the next thing is the NPS, like um how to say, how satisfied is the EP who are coming to your project. So yes, that's how it affects. How to do if your members would not attend meeting? Okay, so first things first is that you have to let them know or make them understand, or you have to change the content of your meeting to make sure that they are interested enough, or like they're looking forward to come to a meeting. Because in my experience, right, I when I was LCPP, I always love to come to a meeting, because first I get to understand what are the things that is happening in my LC. Second thing is that to have a space for me to express myself, to have a space for me to let everyone knows this is something that is happening in IGV. And then maybe there will be like discussion space where people can just voice out their opinions or voice out the suggestion in the meeting itself. So yeah, you have to, like, the members have to understand the importance of coming to a meeting. Yeah, because if your meeting is, for example, not good enough, the content is not there, then obviously they won't come to a meeting, because they don't see in the importance of having a meeting. Yeah, so the next thing is, what is the most suitable measure of impact? Okay, so for measurement of impact, we already have a booklet for it. So basically, for measurement of impact, is that because we have SDG, right? Um, like how can you make sure that your project is actually connected or like contributing into SDGs? So this is how we usually measure the impact. And then it can be different, depends on the project that you are running. For example, if you're running COP, like how can you measure if this project is impactful or not? It's like, for example, you can assess the behavior of your of the people. Like not people, the students that you are like the students in the school that you are partnering with. So yeah, how many ways that they are reducing after the project or during the project and so on. So this is how you can measure the impact of your project. Mm. Then the next thing is some EP have lower LDA after a project, but they said that it doesn't matter to them because they feel the impact. But I wonder, should we adjust the LDA? Okay, so I think for me personally, LDA is something that is very general, that you may or may not see the differences like when you like before you come to a project and after that. So LDA can be something that is guiding you. For example, if the EP um, is lacking of empowering others, meaning that maybe they are not confident enough to talk to people, or they are not confident enough to voice out or to speak in front of other people, to make sure that they are like people are understand uh, whatever it is that she or he is trying to say. So I think, of course, LDA is super important because this is the qualities or the leadership quality that we want to shape in our EP. But at the same time, other than LDA, what are the small chunk that you need to see? Like for example, in LDA there are leadership qualities, right? So yeah, you can refer to that to make sure that the EP is actually improving. So if the EP is they think that it's not um it doesn't matter, then I think maybe you need to give them or like facilitate like a space on to think to talk about it, like because when they feel an LDA, right, they will think that okay, maybe I'm lacking in this, maybe I'm lacking in that, but then they don't see like the point of the meaning of LDA itself, or the leadership quality, or the questions that is asked in the system itself. Yeah. And then the next thing is regarding EP living, MOC EPs cannot get. Okay, so for MOC, I understand that this has been quite of issue. But I think for this, right, we already have a guideline for you. So you can ask your LCVP on how can you solve this visa matter with MOC. Yeah, because it's actually very long, and there is actually like um, step by step guideline for you. Yeah, cool. Any other questions? Maybe. Okay, so do you think 16 exchange standards cover all the aspects of life for EPs? Good question also. So for you to know is that exchange standards is actually the very minimum thing that you have to fulfill for your EP. So of course there are so much more that you can provide to the EP, or so much more thing that you maybe think that there should be there, but 16 exchange standard is the bare minimum that you need to provide to the EP. Yeah, so I think like that. So exchange standard is actually the very minimum um standards for you to provide to the EP. That's why it has to be all fulfilled. Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much for the questions. Any other questions? Any other questions? So I will wait until 9:10. If there is no more question, then I will close the space. Okay, so if there is no more questions, then stay tuned because the next space will be about PD for IGV. So I think if you're LCVP elect, or if you're thinking of applying for LCVP IGV, it's also very very important for you to understand what is happening in IGV, PD for IGV, because PD for IGV is the other half of you, because without PD for IGV you will literally project is not gonna happen. So it's very very important. So yellow. Oh, there is one more question. Can you keep this video? Yes, sure, sure. I will keep this video, and also yes, the video is will actually be automatically uploaded into our YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that, and thank you very much for the question. Um and also the materials, the materials will also be uploaded in our channel. Okay? So, yep, thank you very much everyone for coming to this space. I really appreciate it. Um I hope you have a good night. I know it's Friday night. Yellow. It's like after PD for IGV. You can go have fun, and yeah, basically that's all. Thank you everyone for coming. Bye bye. Or if you have any questions, please 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 don't be hesitate to ask me. Um, but I actually forget to put my email on the spread on this presentation, but I will put my email here. Okay. Yeah, so if you have any questions, please write me on email or Telegram or WhatsApp or whatever you want. I'll make sure to reply as soon as possible. Okay, if no more question, right? Cool. So thank you everyone. Have a good night. Bye bye.